Thank you for listening to the Speaking Out on Sex Abuse podcast with hosts Clara and Jimmy Hinton. If you're new to the podcast, please look us up on your favorite podcast app, subscribe, like, and share so that you never miss an episode. If you'd like to further support us, visit patreon.com/speakingout and check out the different rewards. You'll find exclusive rewards if you sign up as a patron of the podcast. Thank you for your support, and let's get into the show. Welcome to this week's podcast. Thank you again to our patrons who make the podcast possible. We love and appreciate you guys, and we're glad to have patrons, and we want more.
Yes, we are. Yes.
So join the party. Check out the tiers, all the different rewards, and if there's something that meets your fancy, why, you can sign up. Man, what a packed day we have today for this episode. I'm excited about this episode because there's so much heaviness with talking about sexual abuse all the time. We've been doing this for what? I have to look at the calendar to see how many episodes this is. This is our 238th episode.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't feel that much like that much.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
you know, when you talk about heavy things and you talk about abuse and you look at all the corruption within churches and other organizations and all the cover-ups and, repeated consultations and
Right.
then you have our full-time jobs, you have ministry, and you read the news. And, there's just so much going on all the time. And we wanted to shift gears a little bit, I think partly because we like to hear stories of hope, and we like to hear when people's lives are impacted. So today we're going to share a story, and this is very personal to us. And this has a lot of roots in Haiti, but it's a friend of ours, and he needs our help. And so we are gladly going to do a fundraiser and try to get this man help. He is a wonderful, wonderful person, and I mean that from the bottom of my
And
heart.
let's just say he has done a lot in the field of abuse.
Yes.
To keep
Yes.
children safe.
Yes.
I mean, he has done enormous things.
Yes.
And he works tirelessly without complaint.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And he's always
Right.
very humble, and he talks to me just about every day, and he always asks how my family's doing. He asked about my sister Michelle by name every single day. I didn't even answer. He sent me a message yesterday. We were kind of back and forth, and then he said, "By the way, how's Michelle doing?"
He
Without fail, he asked me that question.
Right, and that is just the heart of him.
Yeah.
When I think of him, I just smile from the inside out. The first time I met him, it was like this connection because you could tell his heart is with God.
Yeah, for sure. So his name is Julien, and he's a preacher. So we first met him in 2012.
Right.
We took a trip to Haiti with our church, March of 2012. While we were there, it's one of those you kind of plan things on the fly. You kind of take it day by day because
You have to.
yeah, and it's not uncommon. Like at one point, we had cooked all these meals. We were on our way to deliver them to a I don't even know what you call it. It's not an old folks home because they don't have any. They literally find an abandoned building with a concrete
Right.
slab, and elderly people who don't have anybody to care for them live and sleep on these concrete
That was
floors.
one of the saddest things ever. Yeah.
And we ended up not making it there that day because there was a roadblock, a barricade, and we were traveling with the chief of police for Cap Haitian, which was interesting.
Very.
I guess some of our people had some connections, and we had artillery. And, he's loaded. He's carrying open carry. He has his gun on his side, and he had a couple people with him that had guns, which is kind of a rare sighting in Haiti. But anyway, we ended up not going there, and we went to a jail that day
Right.
and delivered the food. So you never know what's going to happen day to day. So all that to say, One of the things that we planned while we were there was a medical mission, and we needed 2 doctors. My brother Tim was there. He's a medical doctor. And then there was a doctor from another trip, another group, and my brother was able to talk to him. He was an ER doctor, and he kind of brought him in.
Right.
And so that was enough that we were able to do this medical mission. So we went to Julian's church, and it was absolutely packed. I mean, I think we counted like 200 people were there that day, and we saw every single one of them. And it was,
I still shake my head when I think about that. It's hard to describe to you in words. It's one of those things that seeing is believing. They told us that word would get out. Keep in mind, they don't have media like what we do to let people know to gather at a certain place at a certain time. But word gets out
Yeah,
among
very
people
quickly.
and very quickly, and they are there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, we got to the church and we worked, I mean, pretty tirelessly for hours and hours. I mean, it was a full
Now,
day.
this was like helping. There were children, there were elderly people, there were people with like foot ulcers, with open sores, blindness, high blood pressure to where they were, ready to have a stroke on the spot. Anything from people in need of aspirin to running high fevers
Yeah.
to, and the doctors had to assess and then see if we had the medical things to help them and then send them on their way. It was a quick turnaround, and there's only so much you can do, but you do the best that you can do under those
Yeah.
circumstances.
And I think we did, I mean, exceptionally well,
Oh, I
given
think so.
given what resources we had. And so while we were there, I'm going to share a picture. While we were there, Julian, through a translator, taps Mom on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, there's some people here asking for you by name." And I mean, we are in the middle of nowhere in Haiti, and so we're all like, "What?"
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. But anyway, she ends up going outside with Julian, and I'll show you this picture. This is the scene here. So the little girl that she's hugging, that's Mom hugging the little girl. That's my sister Steph beside her. Her husband Ronnie, in the goofy hat. They lived in Haiti for almost 5 years as missionaries.
That's after all of
this
this,
trip.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then Julian there is in the nice Hawaiian shirt off to the left. But this was the family, and there's an elderly woman behind the little girl that Mom's hugging, and you see the little boy under Granny's armpit there. This was a family that Granny was helping out on her own. And, of course, none of us knew that Granny was helping this family out. So this program keeps locking my mouse up. So there we go. So it was pretty cool because this family somehow caught wind that the woman who had been sending money month by month, putting these little girls through school, they have no public education there. So if you want to go to school, you have to have somebody fund you. It's very uncommon for Haitians to have the money to be able to fund their own kids. So all of that support comes from outside countries, Europe, European countries, Canada, and the U.S. mostly. And so Mom had been supporting these little girls, not only sending them to school, but feeding them too. And it was this really cool emotional moment. And you saw Julien standing off to the side. And that's like one of the few pictures that I have of him where he doesn't have the biggest smile on his
I
face.
know,
And no
yeah.
matter what's going on, that man always smiles.
He always wears a smile, doesn't
Yeah.
he?
So we've stayed in touch over the years and have gotten to be pretty good friends. But about probably 4 years ago, he lost all of his support. By all of his support, he only had one person supporting him financially from the States. That's it. And in Haiti, as a preacher, you don't make money. So it's a compound problem because one, you don't make money, and two, preachers have a very high degree of responsibility for taking care of elderly, starving people. They deliver food. They go from house to house to house. They deliver food, medications, and the preachers purchase the medications and the food on their own dime. So if they're not receiving money, people don't eat, people don't get their medication. And so, we've kind of been helping back and forth over the years. And what happened was he lost his money, and he was being supported by a guy by the name of Bob Valerius. Well, Bob Valerius was an American missionary living in Haiti who abused hundreds of boys over there. I actually was the first person to report him. I had never met the man, and I was given a tip. And, not long after our trip there in 2012, I reported him, and it went all the way to Homeland Security. So I was at the church one day, and my secretary gets a phone call, and she was like, she cups the phone, and she goes, "It's somebody from Homeland Security asking for you."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've been expecting that call." And she just looked at me like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
So anyway, this went all the way to Homeland Security, and for whatever reason, he was investigated by the Haitian government, and they found out, there were, of course, all these victims and sexual abuse victims of his, and he ends up kind of getting off the hook somehow. And I think, it was an issue of jurisdiction, and our government was having a hard time coordinating with their government. It was a lot of problems.
It being across across out of the states and
So
back and forth. It was a mess, a nightmare.
Yeah. So I had written an article about this a few years ago, and Bob actually was spotted in Haiti probably 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago. And there was a bulletin that went out by the Haitian government. He's wanted by the Haitian government.
Yeah.
He's like on one of their most wanted lists in the country of Haiti. And so anyway, this guy's like, kind of on the lam. And of course, his support for Julien stopped.
Right.
And so it just was ironic that the one person out of all the people in the world who are supporting my good friend, it happens to be this guy. And I was the one who turned him in and was responsible, pretty much, I wouldn't say solely, but, one of the key people responsible for this guy being sought after by the Haitian government. So, our church picked up the slack, and we've been given monthly support. And one of the things that we just recently helped with, this was last year, they had a well that broke. And we actually saw that well when we were at the church.
We did, yes.
It sits right in the beside the church building, and it's pretty cool because these wells are absolutely precious, and they literally are life. And one well typically will service a whole town.
I just said to Jimmy prior to this podcast, we in the States are so blessed. There has not been a day since my return from that first trip to Haiti, and I've made several trips after that, by the way, but there's not one day goes by that I don't say a prayer of thanks for clean drinking water, because I saw how vital that is to these Haitian people. And that well, it's more than just a well pumping water. We think, oh well,
Yeah.
It is really a life-giving well. Clean water is a precious commodity.
Yeah. So this well broke, and it was right in the middle of COVID, right on the heels of COVID. And, already they've been plagued with so many problems. And of course, Haiti's president was assassinated. And when that happened, there was kind of a coup. And, this other guy kind of puts himself in office. And it's just ever since then there have been riots galore. Gangs have absolutely taken over Haiti. Of course, you've probably heard the stories of the American missionaries who were kidnapped. They were kidnapped for, I think, a couple months before we finally found them. And so it's just a mess. These gangs have hijacked, they've shut roads down, and they've hijacked fuel trucks And so they're selling the fuel on the black market.
And the price is
and
sky
it's, yeah,
high.
it's like almost $20 US a
right.
gallon.
And
And Haitians just can't afford it.
of
So
course not.
yeah, and that's come down some. Like there's been some intervention by the government, and I mean a little, but it's just a mess. So we fixed this well. It broke. He sent me a message, and I was like, I don't know how we're gonna come up with this money, but I was like, we're gonna fix that well. Within less than 24 hours, I just kind of put an email out to a few people from church, and then they kind of spread that out and beyond. Within less than 24 hours, we had more than enough money to send for this well. So I sent it. I'm going to show you a video here because this is just really cool. So he gets the well fixed right away, and he sends me this video where, in his broken English, he's giving God praise at the well.
This is a well, good water now. I praise the Lord. God gave us the water now. I'm very, very happy to have water now. Thank you, God. Thank you.
This man selflessly gives of himself. There are multiple little kids in his community that have chronic health issues, and he'll send me a message and he'll be like, hey, they're out of medicine. I don't know how I'm going to get this medicine, but please pray. And he won't ask me for money.
No.
And he'll just say, please pray. I know that God provides. So, of course, I went back to the church when I found out there was a need for that. And they stepped up to the plate. And we're a small church. I mean, there's not a lot of money there.
No, there's
we don't even
not.
meet our weekly budget. So, for such a small church and such a poor church, they really are generous with their money. And so I was able to send him money over, and he sends me the most heartfelt message. And he takes selfies all the time. So he takes selfies with him, with the boxes of medicine beside the kids who are sick receiving this medicine.
Which is precious because he wants you to know that he is spending that money in the right way.
Absolutely.
And Julien does do just that.
Yeah.
And Julien, by the way, is a firm believer in prayer. And he, as humble as he was, getting on his knees in that video to thank God for that water, he gives all glory, all thanks to God
Yeah.
for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just he's a super humble guy. And one of the things him and his wife do is they take in these homeless kids off the street, and I think they're still doing this, but this was years ago. He told me that they take turns, they sleep in shifts. And so him and his wife will sleep last, and they'll let these kids sleep. And I mean there's a bunch of them, and these houses are dirt floors, very small houses.
Yeah, they're
And they'll have some of these kids, these homeless kids, sleep, and probably adults too. I don't know. It's this guy literally helps everybody that he can. And then they'll cycle out. Then like from 3 o'clock in the morning on, him and his wife will sleep. And so they do that every single night, 7 days a week.
I just shake my head because Julien is a portrayal of love and service. He truly is. He touched my heart, honestly, in a way that will touch me forever.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So then, this is a little over a year ago. He sends me a message, and he never complains, ever. And he said, "Hey," he said, "How are you? By the grace of God, how are you?" And he said, "I pray for you every day. I pray for you and your family." And I said, "Yeah, we're doing good." And I said, "How are you? I haven't heard from you for about a week," which is unusual. And he said, "Well, I had to travel very far." He said, my brother died. And he said, while I was at my brother's funeral, he's inside at the funeral. somebody comes and sets his car on fire and burns that thing to the ground. And he sends me pictures. And he said, but praise God, I'm okay. And I thought, here's this man who, he didn't have money to get home. He's hours from home. It was his only car that he had. It gets burned to the ground, and this man desperately relies on transportation.
And by the way, when we think of cars, they're not like the cars we drive
No.
around in.
No.
Definitely not.
So, and this was right before the gas prices had gone through the roof. So I guess, I don't know. I don't want to say it was a blessing because it's not. It's terrible. There's no way to replace that. And so he sends me a message. It was probably not even a week ago. Actually, it was a letter. So he sends me a handwritten letter. Sends it to my house, and it was typed, and that's very, very unusual because it's a hassle, and it takes a lot of time. It takes money. He would have had to travel somewhere. He probably took a taxi to go have somebody type this out for him. But he typed me a letter, and he said, I'm sending this letter to you and not to the church because if you think it's wrong or distasteful, I don't want you to show it to the church. And I thought, how cool is that? That he's so afraid of doing something that's offensive or just in bad taste.
He doesn't want to overburden either.
Right.
He knows that it's a small church. He understands.
Yeah.
He gets it.
And he said that in the letter.
Yeah.
He said, you guys have helped me so much. And he said, I can never give enough thanks to God. We're currently supporting, I forget how many kids we're putting through school. We're feeding them. Our church really goes out of our way to try to
Which
support
is
the work
wonderful.
he does.
Yeah, wonderful.
And so he sends me this letter and he said, I don't have any transportation. And he said, we're having all these Bible studies, and I deliver food, I deliver clothes, he's delivering medicine. He doesn't have any transportation. And so he sends me an estimate from a dealership for a motorcycle. And the motorcycles they're like cheap Chinese knockoff motorcycles. They make them last, but they're not really
I'm
nice
shaking my head
motorcycles.
because, man, when
And they
you
load
see,
them up, huh?
whoa, see the streets in Haiti filled with these motorcycle drivers.
Oh, they'll put
weaving
6,
in
7
and out.
people on them too.
Oh yeah. Oh,
They'll put an entire
my.
family on top of one of these motorcycles.
Yeah. Yes.
So, he sends me this estimate, and he was like, again, if you think it's in bad taste, then please don't show it to the church. And right away I was like, well, of course I'm going to show it. And then I was like, you know what? We have an audience here who you guys also, I think, want to help people who are in need, and he really is in need. And so I talked to a couple at our church, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about talking about this on the podcast first, because always our church, they're like, hey, there's a need. Somehow we're going to find a way to meet this need. And I feel like we've done that so many times.
Right.
And we haven't included our community here, our listeners, for the podcast. And I thought, what a great opportunity for us to be able to kick in and help him. And the motorcycles, it's only it's $2,000 US. And I thought, let's go above and beyond that. And so I started a fundraiser for $3,000 and thought, let's give him at least gas money and money. I know what he's going to do with it, but he's going to ask me too. Like, he won't just spend it.
I know.
He'll ask me, hey, and he'll have it like itemized. He sends me pictures of receipts. He'll itemize everything, and it's all going to be food. I'll bet you any money he'll spend it on food and medicine. He will not spend it on himself.
No, not at all.
I've sent him money and been like, take your wife somewhere and just go for the day. He won't do
That's
it.
what he does. No. Right.
He always takes care of other people. So anyway, I looked into different fundraiser platforms, and I'm not a fan of GoFundMe. I think they take too much, and it's just not the greatest platform. So PayPal has a fundraising platform. And,
Excuse me.
what I like about that is the accountability factor in their terms. You have to be able to provide evidence and receipts that you sent all of that money to the individual who you raise money for. So I actually like I like that.
I like accountability. Yeah.
Because then there's no way, there's no way to cheat it.
Right.
And to scalp money. And so then people who are given, I like to know when I give money
So
that
do
all of
I.
that money
So
is
do
going
I. Yes.
towards whatever I'm given to.
Right.
So I actually settled on PayPal because I like the built-in accountability that they have. So anyway, we would love for you guys as the audience to help Julien out. And given the connection to sexual abuse, and Julien was, this was his only supporter. And he's been very vocal about sexual abuse, zero tolerance. And I thought, here's somebody he could have easily been quiet about it or covered it up or something like that, but he didn't. And he literally lost everything until we stepped in.
Right.
And so I would love to just volley that back and
Well, it's an
bless him with
awesome
transportation.
opportunity for us to do something that's very hands-on, helping prevent child abuse in a country where child abuse runs rampant.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yes, absolutely.
It does.
And he's a guy too who he will send me lots of pictures and they're selfies. He always puts himself in it. So he'll do this, and I don't he's awesome at taking selfies. I'm not even kidding. So he'll take selfies with himself.
By the way, cell phones, it bothered me when I first went over seeing these people with cell phones. And I thought, this is weird. They're starving, literally starving, but they have a cell phone. They're dirt cheap. And I forget how many cents it is to buy hours of time,
Yeah. Very cheap.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I understood you have to have some way
And
of
as a lifeline,
communicating.
they don't have landlines.
You have to have
Yeah.
some way of communicating. Yeah. So don't think that, he's got this iPhone and this lavish,
Yeah,
setup
their
here.
phones are. Yeah, everything
Not
there
at
is.
all. Not at all. I get
off-brand.
excited as Jimmy is to be part of this. It is for me when I can be. I can't, be in Haiti right now. Obviously, I can't travel over there. I can't write the check alone. But for us collectively to be a part of this is very exciting.
Yeah.
It really and truly
It is. It's awesome,
Yes.
and I love helping people who they don't ask for help.
Right.
This is the first time in years that he's actually asked. Most often he'll be like, "Well, our well is broken. Please pray." Like that was his
Yeah,
message
I
to me, and
know,
he's like,
yeah.
"Brother, you know how much water means to us. So please pray that somehow God will provide a way to fix it." So he never did ask me, and
Wow.
I just
Yeah.
I literally sent a couple emails out, and literally within less than 24 hours, it was
Well,
it
I
was
feel
done.
very positive that our group, Jimmy here, will respond to this.
Yeah.
And I get very excited about it, thinking of what that motorcycle will do. Much different than for someone buying a motorcycle here in the States. There it is a mode of transportation to visit the sick, to visit the homeless,
Yeah.
to
Give people rides to the hospital.
Right.
To
to
carry medicine,
conduct
food.
Bible studies. And by the way, Julien is such an exciting, he gets excited about the gospel. He truly does. And I think with everything that he does, he brings God into it. And that's part of what I love about the whole thing with
Yeah.
him too.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Jimmy and I hope that you will be equally excited and respond. And, I used to think I had to give big sums of money. When I was helping those children, that family, it wasn't a big sum,
Yeah.
but to them it was. To me, it was a very quiet, a very small thing that my heart said to do. Sometimes we think we have to give big chunks of money. We don't.
Yeah.
We really do not. A little collectively really helps.
Yeah, my wife and I, we support a little girl and her mom, but we're helping to put her through school. And when I took my daughter there, she was 9 years old whenever we went back in 2019. She got to play with this little girl, and
How
so we write back and
fantastic,
forth,
yeah.
and we talk all the time. And we know the mom personally because she was one of the nannies for my sister when she was living there, and it's really cool because Jessela, the mom, she'll send pictures, and she sends us copies of her report card, and this girl is just
Yeah.
off the charts,
Smart.
and she's just working really hard too. And so she got straight A's, and her
Smile,
mom is so
she's
proud of her.
This tiny little thing.
But yeah, 20
Yeah.
$20 a month.
Yeah,
And
right.
for us,
It- Right.
it's nothing.
And that's what I mean. Just we are so blessed.
Yeah.
I get excited about us as a family, as our podcast family, gathering together to help somebody who is really working for the same mission as we are.
Yeah.
I'm excited
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
it. Yes.
So, yeah, I will provide the link to help out, and even if it's $1, I mean,
And
literally
we'll keep you
every little
posted,
thing will
which
help.
is awesome.
and
You
we'll give an
you
update.
updates. Yeah.
So yeah, with all
Yes.
the selfies with his moto in the background. So, well, thank you guys always for everything that you do, and we are so blessed to have you guys as listeners, and we're
Yes.
so thankful not just for our patrons, but for all of our listeners and people who support us and encourage us. It's just awesome. We love you guys, and we'll catch you next round.
Thanks again for listening to today's episode. A special thank you to our patrons who make this podcast possible. Please help us get the word out by searching for the Speaking Out on Sex Abuse podcast in your favorite podcast app. Be sure to hit subscribe and rate the show. Please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron and check out the rewards our patrons receive.